Welcome back to Rip It Up, Start Again, our 8th episode here at Disruptive Live and the last one for this year, 2018. Thank you to all of you who watch us and support us, and keep tweeting your questions as we're heading into 2019, where I'm on the search for more disruptors. B2B, B2C, don't mind, we've got a collection here today. So who are disruptors? Agile of mind, insightful, courageous, brave. They're just some of the people that I've met over the last 10 years who are so agile of mind and have such intent on delivering success, innovation, but also want to share that back, which is a differentiation, if you like, which I think all of us have an intention of using technology to deliver back to building civilizational wealth. So we've got some great 3 more speakers today who will be sharing their backstory, why they ripped it up and started again, what they're doing to disrupt, and then we'll have the Q&A panel after the break, and we'll delve down more into the business questions. On the poll, thanks for going there, thanks for voting for your favourite disruptor. Leading at the moment is Citizen Me, and they're being closely followed by Vida. And my promise to you was that whoever reaches the top of the poll in June, they will be chairing the show. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to hand over to my first speaker, Nadia.
Hi, my name is Nadia Sood. I'm the CEO and founder of CreditEnable. And I suppose I never really think about myself as a disruptor, but I probably am. And my story really starts when I was small. I grew up in a family of engineers and social change makers. And the talk at our dinner table was always, well, if there's a problem, then somebody must be able to fix it. And what can we do about that? And I suppose that attitude and that insight and that desire to learn and to change things stayed with me my whole life. So when I graduated from grad school, I went off and joined the UN and tried to be a change maker there, then went into the corporate sector, was an intrapreneur, did all sorts of crazy things about trying to get farmers better access to income, doing what they were doing and what they loved, ran a renewable energy private equity fund, and in the last 10 years or so have been disrupting through impact investing. And I think that was the culmination of what I really loved, was to try to find a way to move business and to move social change at the same time. About 8 years ago, I set up a firm called Impact Investment Partners, and its whole purpose in life was to try to invest capital to make significant social change at scale happen. And we did a lot of interesting things. And one of the things that always bothered me as I was investing and seeing small businesses grow was that they just got stuck, and they needed to find a way to grow through debt. Equity wasn't always the answer for them. And some of the reasons that they were getting stuck were very perturbing to me. They seemed like good businesses, they had strong revenue, they had strong founders, and they just got stuck because banks fundamentally didn't trust them and couldn't understand them. And this issue of this missing middle of these great companies that create all the jobs, that employ all the women, that really create all the disruption in society that's positive and innovative, not getting financed, really bothered me. And I kept talking to my partners about this, why isn't anyone doing anything about this? Why is this massive problem continuing to pervade the world? And the problem is huge. It's about $4.5 trillion of unmet demand for debt by creditworthy companies that just doesn't get filled by banks. And they said to me, you keep talking about how you come from a family of engineers and you want to fix things. So can you please just stop talking about this and do something about it? So I said to myself, okay, either I stop banging on about this or I do something. And that really was the genesis for setting up CreditEnable. CreditEnable has a huge global vision. We're saying to ourselves, let's create an efficient marketplace where lenders and borrowers can meet each other in an efficient manner, in a transparent manner, where they can get from each other what they need. But the scale of the challenge is huge, so it needs to be disruptive in the approach that you take to resolve this. Lenders sit over here, borrowers sit over here. They don't understand how to come together. They don't understand how to talk to each other. They don't understand what each other needs. So if you think about this as a complex negotiation between human beings, they first need to get to understand one another. They then need to get to trust each other. They then need to get to work together before any of this capital will flow. So what I'm doing and trying to do every day in my business is trying to bring that human element into things, trying to co-create with lenders, trying to co-create with borrowers so that the product, the trust, the dialogue actually reflects who they are, what they need, what they mean. And obviously behind all of this is technology, because if you can't use technology, you can't scale. You can have great interventions at a small level, but very less impactful interventions at a large level. So going back to my engineering days again, of course, in my family, although I'm just an engineer by osmosis, building things for scale, building things that have a huge impact on the community, on a huge number of people is what we're really trying to achieve. So trust is very paramount, technology very paramount, and really trying to find ways to involve voices who generally are not involved in creation of product or solutions so that it is meaningful, it has longevity for them, and is really, really useful in their day-to-day lives is really what we're all about. We use this technology to try to make things very fast for lenders, make things very simple for borrowers, and hopefully make the whole marketplace function in a really attractive and useful manner. Aside from that, I think generally in terms of disruption, it's really taking an idea that maybe somebody else has thought to be too big, too hard, too complex, trying to break it down into pieces and saying, who could it be that could help me with this? What partnership could I bring to the table? And how could I make this vision a reality? And that's underpinning everything we try to do. Because if you're looking at huge problems, you need to bring the greatest minds to the table, the greatest experts, the greatest technical competencies, and only then will you build something truly meaningful. So I'll leave you with those thoughts today, and very pleased to introduce the next speaker, whose name is Gibran.
Hi, my name is Gibran Registe-Charles, and I am the CEO and co-founder of CreditEnable. So, disruption, right? So what are we doing to rip it up and disrupt? So I think for us as a business, our core mission really is financial exclusion. And CreditEnable is a company that is using traditional wealth management to service an audience which historically has never been serviced. Our audience, particularly in the UK, is what's sort of known now as the underserved market, of which there's pretty much going on 26 million people in the UK. Historically, banking and finance was never meant for my grandparents and my parents who came over in the Windrush days. So the first wave of migrants coming to the UK really were just seen as labourers to rebuild the UK and London post sort of World War II. But prior to that, 10 years prior, 1939, when sort of Jamaicans helped the RAF and were part of the sort of great rush to defeat sort of, the Nazis in the war, Jamaica specifically was a bit of a hero. 10 years later, 1948, coming to the UK was very painful. I think the 50s were one of the most painful times for sort of immigrants in the UK. So if you've got a society which is sort of saying no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, you can sort of see where then there was no real means for those migrants to be able to be part of the financial system in those days. And what happens going forward, what you have is a lack of knowledge and a lack of inclusion into our modern day financial society. So what we're trying to do is break up what we currently know and understand as the banking system, or not really break it up, but we want to try and provide a fairer system to those who are completely ignored. And financial exclusion is a massive real problem. I mean, currently right now we've got millions of kids in poverty. We've got a massive poverty divide and a poverty premium which is killing families. So what we're ideally looking to do is say, look, okay, decades we've always had this kind of wealth or a mechanism to help people achieve wealth. Why don't we focus on this society? Why don't we help these guys over here who are not typically what was been classified as financially attractive? But I think that's the breakup. I think that's where we can make massive influential change. I think the idea of what we should be looking at is how do we create a fairer socio-economic platform, which means everybody can get on, or at least have access to a mechanism to be able to save and provide for the future. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at that completely. I think that's to happen. My background is in banking, so I've seen, I'm quite old now, so I've seen, all of the crashes. I saw, the dot-com bubble, I've seen the sort of the sort of Black Monday, Black Friday, and I've also seen the recent credit crunch. So I think us as a company, we've got understanding and experience to sort of, you know, provide contingencies for people, because obviously trust is a big thing, and my audience don't like banks. They just don't trust them at all. So it's important for me to be able to provide a platform that can actually enable the trust element for our underserved market. I won't talk too much, but with that, I'll pass over to Timo.
Hi, I'm Timo Hyvaoja, Managing Director of Futurice UK. I'm privileged to be here today with the great entrepreneurs who are just about to start their journey. I'm come from a little bit more established company and background. So Futurice is a digital engineering and an innovation consultancy. We employ over 500 people. We operate across the Nordics, in Germany and here in the UK. We work with all possible sectors that they are, and then from these kind of really small early stage startups to the largest organizations in Europe. But I'm not here today to talk to you about the business side of our thing. I'm here today to talk to you more about the culture and on how to build a company culture, how you are able to build a company that is there to last. Our journey started already 18 years ago. And during that time, we have disrupted our business many times. We have pivoted, we have created new offerings, we are entered to the new markets and pivoted again if something didn't work out. And during this time, we have been growing roughly something like 25–30% a year, worked with 100 of different clients and then delivered thousands of different type of projects to them. But the thing that I'm by far the most proud of is that during this time, we have been selected twice as the best place to work in Europe. And how do we see and look into the building a great company and building a great workplace? That actually started already at the very beginning. That was one of the carrying ideas of the founders, that how to build a really great workplace, how you are able to build a workplace where employees really want to come to work on a morning. And this is something that has been taking us all the way from the really, really small Finnish startups to be this kind of global consultancy company. What we are able to now do these days is that when we are building our own organization, building our own culture, we are actually helping at the same time our clients to adopt the way that we are working, and we are able to bring our ways of working to our client organizations. With the vast amount of projects and information that what we are able to pull from the different type of industries, from the different type of organizations, we are able to look at what's really good, what's working, what's our causing problems, and then learn from the clients. And already roughly 6–7 years ago, we actually started to co-create with our clients our way of working, our culture, and this kind of lean service creation, which is our way, our methodology, that what we are now taking forward. We are teaching it in the several different universities and building this kind of robust way that can be replicated to build a great company culture. For example, Futurice is based on 4 core values: trust, transparency, continuous improvement, and caring. When you are setting up your company, it's extremely important that you are setting up the root, the core values at the very early stage, and you live and breathe those every day. For example, relating to transparency, what we do in our company is that each and every employee who is starting at us, on the day that they are starting, we are asking from them that would it be okay that your career level and salary would be a public information. So what we are trying to encourage our employees to do with this one is that we are able to create a system which brings equality, which enables different people. They don't need to guess what their colleagues is making. If somebody is making different type of money in this company than there are somebody else. Instead of it's a completely open model, completely open system, and everybody basically is able to ask why I'm earning this and somebody else is earning something else. That's based on transparency and to trust. And I will be speaking more onto the next session relating to what other things that there will be when building a company to last and with a great culture. Back to Lulu.
Thank you so much to all my speakers for sharing their backstory, for sharing insights into why they're here today. It's very exciting for me, being the last of the year. Happy Christmas, everyone, by the way. But we're calling it a close now. We're going to have a quick break whilst we get ready for the panel, Q&A panel, where we actually start asking more of the serious questions about the business structure. So what large problem are you solving, the validity of that, the validity of your idea, trust and how important is trust, your growth and the change and the vision for the future. So join us in 3.5 minutes when we will be back live all together, prompting and disrupting each other. Cheers.
I think we're tired of doing things that are unrewarding to the human.
If there's a genuine problem and you provide a genuine solution, it doesn't require so much like driving it down people's throats, which requires capital for sales and marketing. It's just there's a problem and all of a sudden it's a solution, and sales is just organic.
Disruption really starts at the root way that we interact with something to make it easier, more efficient and more rewarding.
What we're seeing here is it doesn't matter what category you're in. The same problems are occurring or the same opportunities are occurring.
Because big corporations are just stuck in their own ways, doing things the way that they've always done because no one's challenged that. And all of a sudden, we want to buy brands from companies that we care about that are doing better for the world, that have a better social footprint, that have a better impact on the way that we feel.
So they will be called disruptive companies because they bother the big ones. But I don't think they necessarily are disruptive in terms of their way of working on the day-to-day. They are basically trying to shape a new form of economy that just works for people.
I think we're all looking for ways to minimize our noise so that the things that we do choose to engage with, we want them to be more meaningful.
Every company has a story. Your brand is real from the inside out. If you get that very clear and you're very honest with your story, what happens is the development and the birth of that company evolves in a very real way.
I think the Rip It Up community is united by a dissatisfaction with the status quo.
People are tired of seeing that business is something extractive and it doesn't create the value for people that they expect.
Just generally being unsatisfied with the status quo, thinking that there's got to be a better way, you know. I think that's what unites all of us.
Companies come to Rip It Up because they see that it's part of a whole community, a movement, where people have got this tension, if you like, of wanting to change, wanting to effect a change and to share that change.
There's marketing, there's PR, there's engineers, there's biologists, there are video gamers, they are completely widespread and do so many different things. But all those skills become an asset pool to everyone that goes through that system. So it's sort of like you have a nice little resource that you can tap at any time and say, hey, I need this. And then hopefully that community can answer. And if that community can't, they have obviously their own communities that they can reach out to as well.
I want people to come to me and say, I've got a business proposition and I want to share it on your stage. I want to be part of this movement, if you like. I want people to come to me and say, I'm not quite ready, but I get what you're doing. Can you help me?
And I just love that that sort of idea that things can be better, you know, fundamentally, whether it's the people who are talking on stage or the people in the audience, just generally being unsatisfied with the status quo, thinking that there's got to be a better way, you know. I think that's what unites all of us.
I want everybody. I want, building civilizational wealth for me is the end goal. It's the big picture. It's the big, can I achieve a little bit of that? I would love to. I'm sure just little old me won't, but if I can start people, an avalanche starts in a very small way.
Hi, welcome back to Rip It Up, Start Again. So you've heard earlier each of our speakers give them their backstory, and we're now here to ask the business questions, the here and now. So I think I'm going to open actually with you, Timo, because it's slightly interesting because you're not the founder of the company. You've been with the company for since 2006, so a very long time. The company was founded in 2000.
Yep.
And you're here actually in London to create the growth of the company here. But why you're really on Rip It Up, Start Again is actually about the culture and the sort of the backstory of how the company first started was very important. The culture and the build of the company.
Yep.
And that itself, the disruption of that build of the culture has led to the very, very fast growth that you guys have found to be in. And this is why I wanted you to go and rip it up, to actually show people the enormous the enormity of importance, if you like, in the culture. I mean, everyone obviously lip service to our assets or our people, but actually you've taken that really to the ninth scale. I mean, it's really, really important in everything you do, even from the first day. I think you were sharing with me off air about, you know, when you join, the first day you get a credit card with a £4,000 limit,
Yep.
which is just, I mean, what ownership and trust that builds within. So going to the first question, which is the large problem that you're solving, I think, you know, in that context of the culture opposed
Yep.
to what the business is actually building for the sake of our audience, could you tell me about the problems that you're solving?
Yeah, of course, like I said, that we are a consultancy company. What our people typically solve is that whatever large problem our clients have, we are solving those. But when we are looking internally and how we are building our company, the largest problem that what we are solving at the moment is that how to build a great workplace. How we are able to make sure that as the competition of a talent is really high in all the markets where we operate, how we are able to attract the best talent, how we are able to make sure that when a new person, when they join us, we are able to show that we trust them. And for example, giving them a credit card, company credit card on a day one. That's one way. But then what else we can bring in to the mix so that we are able to make sure that whenever a person joins us, no matter how junior or senior you are, that we are able to provide you something that you value and you want to work in a consultancy company. And then what we are now looking into, and the other problem as in within creating a great workplace, is that how we are able to create this kind of ultimate learning platform. How we are able to make sure that when the new person joins, we are able to push him or her to this kind of continuous learning path. And at the same time, when our employees are learning all the time, it means that of course our company will be in this kind of complete, continuous learning path too.
Brilliant, that's excellent. So can I now turn the same question to you, Nadia? You obviously touched on this briefly in the backstory, but can you give us a bit more meat on the bones, if you like, of what succinctly the problem is that you're solving right now, today and for tomorrow?
Sure. So, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm the founder of CreditEnable, and really CreditEnable is a credit insights and technology company, but the big problem we're trying to solve is why is it that $4.5 trillion that should be going to small businesses doesn't go to them?
Yeah.
And the fact that it doesn't go to them, you might look at it at a financial level as very impactful, but it has a much more negative societal impact, which is that we know that for every $100 of debt going into a company, for example, they can create another 5 jobs. So if you think about $4.5 trillion not getting to them, think about how many jobs aren't getting created. And then if you think 5 more people get jobs, that impacts on all those 5 people's families in a positive manner. So if there's an inefficiency that is that huge in the market, it's having a massively negative impact everywhere. And I know you're touching on that in a different way, Gibran, but it's the same thing. So we're trying to solve this problem. Why is this not working properly? And it comes back actually to 2 main issues. It's lack of knowledge and lack of access to data, but underpinning that is lack of trust. Because if you can't see something, feel it, touch it, analyze it, then you can't trust in it. So if you can fix the first issue, which is seeing, touching, analyzing, you can build the trust that needs to be there for the capital to flow, and then you should be able to solve that problem. So that's really what we're trying to do.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, ticking boxes is a big thing in the world of finance. And I think you told me a story off air about this company that's over 100 years old was trying to scale.
Yes.
But because they didn't tick quite all the boxes, they didn't even get to the trust bit, which we'll come back to. I don't know if you want to just share that briefly, that story.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a vicious cycle in that because small businesses don't really understand how banks actually work and in fairness to banks also, they have a lot of constraints because they're heavily regulated sector, so they have to comply with certain requirements that regulators globally impose on them. But because small businesses don't understand that, they often come ill-equipped into the discussion. So they start off on a conversation path which is doomed to fail, in that they don't have the right documentation in place, then the bank can't tick the boxes, and so you never get to the trust part. So kind of making that flow of two-way information work out properly so that everyone knows this is what I need to be able to do. If I can do this, then the person can actually start to take me seriously and can have a conversation with me and we can move forward. Then you start to unblock those bottlenecks. I think you also, it's really lack of knowledge and lack of understanding of the constraints that both parties have. Likewise, banks need to understand that explaining to a small business that it needs to have a proper set of accounts, for example, is not granular enough information to really help them, because it doesn't just mean go to see an accountant and get a set of accounts signed off. It means tell me what's really happening in your business. How much of your business is profit? How much is cost? What are you spending your money on? And then I can understand your story. Coming back to stories, it's all about stories. Then I can understand your story and I can back your story and back you.
Exactly. I think there's been, I mean, obviously I'm a great believer in everything tech, but sometimes you go, gosh, the first iteration is a little bit lazy, potentially, and it's sort of taken these boxes very literally and very seriously. But segueing that really nicely to you, Gibran, because of course your target sector have disposable cash, and so this is a really interesting aspect.
I mean, you think so? Only, very minimum disposable cash.
Yeah, but still.
Compared to, because don't forget their outlook in terms of what they do after my payday, after the bills and the kids and everything's done. I mean, they're not thinking, oh, let's go and invest it or save it. It's let's go to the pub or someone's birthday, or I might pay a deposit on a holiday, because in their mindset and how they've been brought up,
their habits,
was never to be like, let's save for a house or whatever, because it's a generational thing of not being able to sort of be part of the financial system, which dates back sort of nearly 70 years.
So the problem you're solving is actually you're educating into a change of
financial behaviour, and exactly. So the next generation of kids can understand that actually, I mean, that's what we're trying to solve. I mean, we do three things. We give you access to sort of wealth management, and we sort of provide education, provide content, and also we protect your kind of assets as well. So we sort of try and give you as much sort of support in your forward going of financial security as possible. And I think what we see now with this kind of explosion of poverty in the UK is just a generation of not knowing that I can be a part of it, and the fact that sort of high finance and banking was only deemed for one type of sort of person in society. Therefore, my sector feels ignored, excluded. And they just go on thinking, well, it's not for me. That's for those kind of people. It's not for me. And then you just perpetuate this kind of sort of financial ignorance and mistrust, really. So I think it takes for us to sort of, I think you mentioned it well, intersect and do a right angle and go, right, hey, let's. Why don't we do it and sort of try and disrupt it a little bit and go, right, we're going to do this and we're going to almost arbitrage what's currently in existence and overlay that onto a completely new set of people. So basically take from that set and go to, because I think that's what's happening. I think especially with fintech, and this is sort of, I mentioned to you before, we've got to be careful we don't just start creating a better mousetrap and just taking what is not digital to digital platforms. I think what we should be doing in order to have a real discussion about and a real narrative about disruption is breaking systems and putting it at people who really need it. I think that's what's really important.
Because actually, I mean, if we can just carry on for the second question, because what does trust have to do with the solution? I think this is everything, because presumably your target market don't trust.
Absolutely. I mean, they're not without a doubt, they're not a wealth management type of person. Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, this finance exclusion argument, which crosses so many different parallels and sectors, but they're having a hard enough time anyway with their own bank. Never mind trying to be, sign up to a new app on a phone. So I think we have to be very clear and very simple about what we do, and then sort of say, look, I mean, one of our three cornerstones is if we can relate, we can communicate, and if we can communicate, we can educate. I think they're the sort of pillars of how we build our business and how we can then pass that knowledge to our clients. And once a client and our clients get to trust us, because we know their pain points, right? We know how they spend the money, we know what they spend the money on, we know that, and also I think using technology and things like social media and especially YouTube, so they can relate and go, right, I know he has a company, I can see his face. Big banks are this kind of shells, they don't know who's inside, they don't know what the owner looks like, whatever. So I think all these tiny elements to create a community, to build a community, embodies and helps create this trust element, which is so important for what we do in finance.
Absolutely. How, Timo, how's trust got to do with your solution?
Trust is one of the core values of Futurice, and when thinking about the trust, like mentioned earlier, that for example we are showing it in a really tangible way to our employees that we trust them, and when, for example, a new employee joins, what are all the things that what we are able to do in order to show the trust that we are trusting them? So which means that the recruitment process that what we do, that's really important, so that we are able to find the people that who have used or they have the skills and capabilities to work in our kind of environment where basically that the trust is given, it's freedom, autonomy, responsibility is what you want to do, and you want to live in this kind of organization where you are not told what to do. Instead of you are always able to come back to the leadership and say that, hey, actually I got this kind of idea, or what we could do here, or what could we do there, so that we encourage them to rise and shine in a way that we don't want to build this kind of hierarchy and then push people down and say that, okay, now, for example, yes, you got the credit card, but whenever you're using it, you should come to ask a permission. We don't have that. Or that when you're using it, somebody would come and said, for example, accept your travel expenses. We don't do that. It's in our opinion, it's a waste of time. There's no need to do that because we trust. How we are able to help people and teach them in order to become a part of our culture and our ways of working is that we provide them a simple guidelines. For example, we have this kind of really simple decision-making principle at Futurice. Whenever you're doing a decision, no matter how big or small, you should be thinking about 3 different angles. We call it actually 3x2. You would need to think about our people. You need to be thinking about our clients, what the impact is for them for the decision that you're making. And then you need to think about our company numbers. So basically, what's the impact to the bottom line on the decision that you do? So that's where the 3 comes from. And
regardless of the amount, obviously.
Yeah.
Whether this is a cup of coffee or whether
it might be a cup of coffee. It might be that you are taking to the client to lunch, or that you are late for a meeting, you need to go with a cab, or you decided to take your business unit to Las Palmas for a week. So it can be, I did that in 2016. so there are so many things that how you can argue that it was a good decision. And then when you are doing the decision, you need to be thinking about it, that the impact on now, the immediate impact, and then what the impact is in the future. And with this simple rule, you are really easily to see that is the decision that I'm going to make, this is good or not. That's why we don't need to build this kind of control structures. Instead of we are building this kind of vision and the mission that where we are, and I say that this is how we want people to think and operate. So then we don't need to have this kind of strict rules when we have the principle.
Absolutely, you've empowered people with autonomy,
exactly, yes.
And you're actually doing it in a very tangible way, and you're letting them test the parameters.
Yes.
So you're taking away. I mean, it's a really smart way of doing it, because I think a lot of companies, they might put trust in their values, in their core values, but then they don't do it. There's a lot of hypocrisy around this, I think.
Yes, it is.
Moving on to you, Nadia. We've got to get through all the questions. How important is trust in your solution?
Oh, it's absolutely paramount. I mean, first of all, our clients who are lenders have to trust in the veracity of what we're preparing. So our data sets have to be extremely clean. They have to be well organized. They have to be checked. They have to feel like a high degree of confidence that we're like the best at doing that, and the best at being objective. So we're not trying to push them to make a decision that will be contrary to what they need to do. On the other side of the equation, we're trying to bring borrowers into this marketplace and help them participate in a meaningful and efficient manner. Right now, their life looks like if they need a loan of $25,000, they have to see 5 lenders, spend 4 weeks at a time with each of the lenders, trying to convince them that this is a good idea to lend to them. Obviously, this is hugely negative negative detractor for their day-to-day work or their ability to grow their business. So we need to cut that down. But for them to enter the marketplace, they have to feel trust in the marketplace. So they have to feel, for example, if they share data with us, they know we're not going to sell it to Vodafone so that Vodafone or a mobile phone provider or an insurance guy can start selling them things. They need to know that if they gave us the data for a specific purpose, it's only going to be used for that purpose and only with their consent. So trust underpins if you're going to have a functioning marketplace, a functioning relationship, human relationship. If you don't have that, then it's never going to work. So this is, I would say, you know, in the same way that Timo thinks about it every day with regard to his clients, with regard to his team, we're thinking about it every day in every decision we're making about what we're building, how we're talking to our clients, and how we're talking to the participants in the marketplace to make sure they feel that trust. And asking them to build the solutions with us. So where we're quite different is we work with lenders and we help build solutions together with them. But on the borrower side, we're working with borrowers. In India, we work with a group that represents 70 million small businesses, 70, it's a huge group. And we work with them and we sit with them and we say, what do you need to know in order to be in this marketplace? Where are your knowledge gaps? How can we give you more knowledge that's useful to you and not speak to you in platitudes or in a condescending tone? And so that you'll have the trust that you need to come into the marketplace. And we work in partnership like that, which again, can only work if you have trust at the basis of it.
Absolutely, and that's all integrated into the platform.
Yes.
Brilliant, that's fantastic. So the validation, of course, really important. How have you validated that idea, your idea?
I think we're kind of sort of antithesis of how most sort of startups work, where most startups will have a product and then they'll probably try and find product market fit. We were fascinated. I mean, I spent a year last year in Brussels working at the European Parliament, and I worked in the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee. So I was privy to the rules and data, especially around banking anyway, and finance, and saw the disparity and the sort of the massive wealth divide within the UK anyway. So, and then I came back and sort of did some more digging around and wanted to find out, okay, we know we want to do some sort of digital wealth platform, but what's our market going to be? How are we going to, what's the most market that's going to most benefit? And then it was basically right on my doorstep. It was just, you know, the problem of the underserved community, those who earn under 30,000 a year, and then we built a forum on Facebook to find out questions and go and see them directly and ask, you know, over 1,000 people, what do you spend your money on? What do you trust banks? You know, what's the idea of, what do you know about wealth management? What's a portfolio? And you know, 9% like, I have no idea what that is. That's quite a scary word to me, you know. So we had to dig down and say, well, look, what if we were able to give you something like this for low cost, like, you know, £1 or £10 to open the account? And, you know, they're like, yeah, great. Because one of the things is that banks don't deliver. They make promises, but they're not delivering. You know, why are you saving money when you're getting like less than 1% a year on your money, you know? So they give up. So it was testing the market, and we spent the longest time developing a market. So we built this market, this audience and this community first.
Right.
Really over a period of 6 months to a year. And then we said, right, now we're going to build technology around that. So we don't need to get them on a market fit. We'll just apply the technology to our audience and build, and, you know, be quite agile and build the technology with our audience so that as we're building this process and building this technology, we're going to have clients use it and test it and also reward them as well for being part of it. So that was important. That saves a lot of time as well.
Well, now.
Yeah, now.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you'd done it the other way around, you'd be wasting another year. Probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Timo, I'm going to change the question slightly because, you know, for looking at your structure of your business and why you've been so successful, the validation came afterwards, really, didn't it? I mean, there was sort of a two-tiered validation. So could you just share with the audience that?
Well, that Futurice went as a consultancy company. Of course, the building of the consultancy company goes all the time to that we need to be making sure that what we know, what we can do is something that is relevant for our clients. It is, we have the skill set or the competence or the offering that is relevant. And when we are going there to work with our clients, we are listening to them all the time. We are asking feedback all the time, so that we are able to understand that what are the key issues that they have today, and then we want to understand what will their problems be in a couple of years ahead. And we are using this information then as being client-centric in order to build our company forward. So we don't go there into the high altitude camp and try to come up what our new offering will be. Instead of we talk with our clients, we understand where they are going, what they are needing, and then following the trends, what's happening on the market, and then using that as a validation and a feedback for us in order to build the capabilities that what we have in our company.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Nadia, validation, was it very simple?
No, of course not. I mean, validating anything with the financial services sector is very difficult, and validating things with a community that typically has been badly served by that same financial services sector is equally difficult. So, but like you, what we did was we first wrote a credit algorithm. We tested that credit algorithm over $2.5 billion of SME loans together with lenders so that they could get comfort in the way we were actually trying to help them become more efficient. And now we can allow them to be 200 times more efficient in going through a credit application to understand whether the company can absorb debt. Then we built a technology wraparound around that once we knew that there was a need and that we were actually able to address the need. With the borrowers, we also built, we knew what the issues were that they were having because we were talking to them all the time about why aren't you getting debt, what's the challenge for you, how complicated it is, and we spent a lot of time talking to them, and we found out very interesting things like there's a huge amount of information that there is out there for them, but to get the information they need, they were having to go to 50 different websites, which is hugely time consuming. They don't have huge teams that can spend all their days trying to disseminate information and ingest it and then gather the knowledge they need out of it. They didn't know, they're spoken to very much in very macro level terms like run your business so that it's profitable, create good accounts, but there's no description of what that means. So then they're kind of stuck between the theory and the practice and they never get anywhere. So we have to build tools. So we spent a lot of time talking to both sides of the marketplace about what their main pain points were. We always discuss that. What's your pain point and how can we help you address the pain point in a meaningful way for you? So that's how we validated before we started building a business. We talked to the clients and said, do you want this? And can then we do the thing you need?
So how are you going to manage scale?
So scale, I think about this all the time. I mean, we've got 70 million people we need to try to service on one side. That's a huge number. So technology is going to be critical and working with great technology partners who can help us build tools to intervene. But then how do you make technology human? Because to reach 70 million people in a meaningful way, you can't just send out a text message and hope that it will, fundamentally transform their life. So can we use stories to help change behavior, to help educate, to help communicate? And I think so for us, scale is really about, can we build something fantastic that can work in a very small group that all four of us would find engaging, useful, attractive, helpful, and take that and wrap it in technology so we could get it to 100,000 people and it would have the same emotional impact and the same day-to-day transformative effect for them.
How many people in your company now?
So we're 20 people today,
people.
yeah.
How many is in yours, Timo?
We are 550.
So that's important. And it was 8 in our company. And one of the things that's scary about scale is knowing when to do it. I mean, especially as a startup and you get your first round of funding, I think people have got to be careful of that because they go, right, now I can employ all these people and thinking that I can get these processes done. And then, they scale up really quickly and then realise they run out of money. So I think that's interesting to hear your story of how you measure scale from someone who's sort of starting out just a year old. I think it's quite...
But are you focusing on, therefore, the Indian market specifically to start with?
So we started there because it was the most challenging market with the most opportunities. The appetite that lenders have to actually get into the SME market is very high. It's a growth economy. There are a huge number of people who need financing. There was an appetite to collaborate with external firms, which allowed us to really test our development of our products early on rather than trying to find a product market fit later. And getting data into a manageable form was very complex there. So now we have built the technical skills to be able to do that in any market, and we're starting to do things in other markets. So we were asked by lots of different entities actually, even outside of lending specifically, but within financial services to help provide data, to help give them insight. We're looking at expansion into other lending markets as well. So yeah.
Okay, great. What about scale for you then? I mean,
I think we took it really easy and just built a really strong team, and probably will scale later, like a few years. But I think our main challenge right now is making sure that we can get this product, get this sort of service out to people and build the audience that way, and then really push our team to deliver and not overwrite them, but really, scale when it's really right. I think that's a tricky measurement to know when is the right time to scale.
So validate basically the business case over and over.
Continually, yeah, always. I mean, we've got a very simple model, but I think that again, the trust element is important, and then once we get that right, then we know again what's broken, what we need to fix, and what's not, what's broken. So.
Because your target market, again, are actually from social media standpoint, very savvy.
Very savvy, lots of time on social media. So I think that's where you have to be. I think our scaling can hopefully go organically because we're so transparent. Yeah. Because part of our ability to accumulate more clients is the fact that we're transparent, and we're, you can see what we're doing, the podcast, the vlogs, the daily updates on social media. So, them referring friends and family to us should be easier because we're there. That's what it looks like, that's what they're doing. And I think that attitude is how we're going to
Well, Monzo did it brilliantly, didn't they?
Yeah.
Even though Mondo became Monzo, but I mean, that shows everybody how to do it in a really nice way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Scale for you, I mean, you're charged with scaling the UK business, aren't you?
Yeah. We are basically scaling in two different ways. So Futurice, as the tech group and consultancy company, we are looking forward this kind of steady 25-30% annual growth.
Right.
And but then we established something called Futurice and Startups a few years ago, which is basically our venturing and startup arm of our business.
Okay.
And with this team, they are all the time looking for different type of joint venture opportunities with our clients, and then at the same time looking opportunities to launch new businesses. For example, this year we launched our own first product AI company, and then also this kind of high-end freelancer platform. So that, like I said earlier, that we like to disrupt our business, of course, as we are a consultancy company and we are establishing our own freelancer company. So it means that we are not afraid of the competition, even though that we are building it also for ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. And so looking kind of more the immediate future, and perhaps more at the sort of what changes have you thought about, I guess, with regards to delivering a longer term vision?
For what we are going to invest now in the near future, a lot is to figuring out that how we are able to create a consultancy company which will become this kind of ultimate learning platform.
Yeah.
So how we are able to help each and every employee basically become a better version of themselves. What we are able to do, as we are not a school, but how we are able to create such a model that we can guarantee the quality what we are delivering for our clients, at the same time guarantee for our employees this kind of learning path so that they are able to all the time staying relevant, renewing their skill set, and not only about their core competence, but then looking wider that, for example, software developers understanding more from the business or design, and then what we are able to do there. So that's the thing that where we are now going to invest in the coming years quite a lot.
Really nice, really nice. What about you?
So I think it's a mix, obviously, of, now we're at a size where we really need to make sure that we're building the foundations that are like the ones that Timo was referring to, that people feel that they can invest their whole selves in building this vision together with us. Because at the end of the day, a company is just made up of its people, and if they don't share the vision or don't feel it's fulfilling, it's never going to happen. So we need to really pay attention to that. And for us, the next 2 years are really just really penetrating the Indian market, building up our client base there. We're already working with 5 lenders. We want to go to 30 lenders, mobilizing our 70 million SMEs into a hugely powerful, empowered community, which I know they can be because There are amazing entrepreneurs in there who, will be able to educate their own colleagues and their own peers. And then looking at other markets and other opportunities to take the technology platform we have, which is built for global scale, and provide benefits to clients and potentially in the financial services sector in the UK, which will be an interesting market for us to be in other markets in Europe, and then outside of financial services to other types of clients who might need the services we can provide.
Fabulous. So partnerships are going to be a very important aspect of both the scale but the vision of how you're changing for the future.
Absolutely.
And finally, but not least, Gibran.
I think education really for us is a bit like what Timo's model is doing. Is really we have to, we're educating through good content, and we are building models that are going to educate, people about finance, because finance is a bit scary, our numbers and this, and so we're trying to sort of, make it really friendly. And maybe describe finance in a very ordinary term, like, what is a portfolio? Well, portfolio is like building, making a cake, for example. You've got different ingredients. So breaking it down, I think that's really, so far that's working. And Alison, who's our sort of senior heart officer, she's really good, and she does lots of innovative ways of actually describing things and making it in sort of cookery terms.
Did you say senior heart
officer? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's conscious. Why?
Because I think, for us, Alison's always been good at grounding us and making sure that we're on a very equal level. Especially finance, we're quite stressful. And I think, we spoke today, culture is really important. I think, having a good culture and Alison's role really is multitude, but her job really, apart from helping with the sort of community team, is to make sure that everyone in the office is on a good level, not mentally, mental health is important, so not stressed out. How are you feeling? If you don't want to work today, then fine, go in the garden and sort of take your shoes off and step in a bit of grass and just earth yourself. All these things are really helpful to getting a real understanding, because, when we do get bigger, especially working in finance, we don't want to, have lots of mental health issues, and we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable. So that's one part of what we do within the business. But going back to the point, I think education for us is the model what we're going to do, and I think we have to be the example, because no one's doing what we're doing, right? So there's never been a financial company I know that's gone, right, we're not going to look after rich people, we're going to look after the working poor. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's just not. Banks are designed.
Even though it's the maths, right?
Right, exactly. The sort of middle of the triangle. Banks are designed to take big fees, so it's not worthy. So everything we do in terms of the company has to be new and has to be quite innovative, not only for the work. For the staff and people who work in the company, but also our audience as well. And I think if we can show them how we educate ourselves and how we can educate them, I think we've got a bit of a success.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, good luck, everybody. It's been an amazing panel session. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for your transparency. And so wrapping it up, rip it up, start again, for the end of 2018, and see you back here January the 16th, 2019. Over and out. Happy Christmas.